Have you ever noticed how some phrases sound normal, but they actually hide something much deeper? There are 5 specific phrases that people over 50 say almost automatically, and most people think these phrases mean nothing. But they reveal one of the most powerful psychological mechanisms of the human mind: emotional protection. And the interesting part? The person saying them doesn't even realize what they're revealing. So pay close attention to what I'm about to show you. Because if you've ever said any of these phrases, or heard someone close to you say them, this will change the way you see things. Before we continue, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment at the end telling me if you've said any of these phrases. Now let's go. Most people think these phrases are just polite responses, or simple ways of saying you don't want to talk about something. But that's not what's really happening. Behind each of these phrases, there's an invisible emotional barrier, a protection mechanism that was built over years, and it's stronger than most people imagine. Let me show you the first phrase. I'm fine. Sounds simple, doesn't it? 2 words that seem to mean exactly what they say. But here's what most people don't notice. When someone over 50 says I'm fine with that specific tone, that slightly automatic tone, they're not describing how they feel. They're closing a door. Pay attention to this, because this phrase almost never appears alone. It usually comes after someone asks, "How are you? Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And the answer comes quick, almost too quick. I'm fine. No pause, no hesitation, just automatic. And that's the first sign, because when someone is truly fine, they don't need to say it so fast. They don't need to protect themselves from the question. But when someone has learned to carry everything alone, when someone has spent decades being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who solves problems instead of creating them, I'm fine becomes a reflex. It's not a lie, it's protection. And this is more common than it seems. Now the second phrase, I don't need help. This one is interesting, because it sounds like independence, like someone who's in control. And sometimes that's exactly what it is. But other times, and this happens more than people think, this phrase means the opposite. It means, I've asked for help before and it didn't work. Or, I've learned that asking makes me look weak. Or even, I don't want to be a burden. And here's the detail almost no one catches. People who truly don't need help don't need to say it. They just don't ask. Simple as that. But when someone says, I don't need help, with emphasis, especially after someone offers, that's not independence. That's a wall. An emotional wall built over years of carrying weight alone. And this connects directly to the third phrase. Pay close attention to this one. It doesn't bother me. 4 words that seem harmless, but reveal something powerful. Because here's what happens. When something truly doesn't bother someone, they don't mention it. They don't think about it. It just doesn't exist in their mind. But when someone says, it doesn't bother me, they're talking about something that's already in their head, something they've already processed, something they've already decided to ignore. And that's completely different. Let me give you a real example. Imagine someone who always gets forgotten in family gatherings. Their birthday passes and only 2 people remember. Their opinion gets ignored in conversations. Their presence gets taken for granted. And when someone notices and asks, doesn't that bother you? The answer comes, it doesn't bother me. But here's the thing. If it truly didn't bother them, they wouldn't have such a ready answer. They wouldn't have thought about it enough to form a response. The phrase itself proves that it does bother them. They've just learned to protect themselves from that pain. And this takes us to something even deeper. Because behind these 3 phrases, there's a pattern most people never see. A psychological pattern that changes everything. These aren't just random phrases. They're not just polite ways of avoiding conversation. They're markers. Emotional markers of someone who's learned to survive by not showing vulnerability. And the 4th phrase makes this crystal clear. I'm used to it. This is probably the most revealing one. Because I'm used to it doesn't mean comfort. It means adaptation to discomfort. It means, this hurt me before, but I've learned to live with the hurt. So now it's just normal. Think about that for a second. When someone says they're used to something, they're admitting it happened enough times to become familiar. Enough times to stop fighting it. Enough times to accept it as part of their reality. And this is where emotional protection becomes visible, because the mind does something brilliant when it can't change a situation. It changes how we feel about the situation. It numbs the pain. It creates distance. It builds a wall between the hurt and our awareness of the hurt. And "I'm used to it" is the sound of that wall being built. You see this everywhere once you start noticing. The parent whose kids never call, "I'm used to it." The person whose partner never shows affection, "I'm used to it." The worker who gets overlooked for promotions, "I'm used to it." Each time someone says this, they're revealing a wound that's been there so long. It's become part of the landscape. And now comes the fifth phrase, the one that ties everything together. "I can handle it." On the surface, this sounds like strength, like confidence, like someone who's in control, and sometimes it is. But there's a detail here that changes everything. Notice when this phrase appears. It almost never comes when someone is relaxed. It comes when someone is clearly overwhelmed, when the weight is visible, when the stress is obvious, and someone asks, "Are you sure you can handle all this?" And the answer comes, "I can handle it." But listen to the tone. Really listen, because that tone reveals everything. It's not calm confidence. It's determined exhaustion. It's the voice of someone who's been handling things alone for so long. They don't know how to stop. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't even know how to admit they're at their limit. So they say, "I can handle it." Not because they're sure they can, but because they have to. Because that's who they've become. The one who handles things. And here's what makes this so powerful. These 5 phrases. "I'm fine." "I don't need help." "It doesn't bother me." "I'm used to it." "I can handle it." They all serve the same purpose. They protect the person from having to be vulnerable, from having to admit they're struggling, from having to show the parts of themselves that feel weak or uncertain or hurt. And the reason this happens so much after 50 is because by that age, most people have built these walls brick by brick, year by year, experience by experience. Every time they were let down when they showed vulnerability, every time they were judged for not being strong enough, every time they were made to feel like a burden, another brick went up. And now the wall is so automatic, they don't even realize it's there. They think they're just being practical, or independent, or realistic. But what's really happening is emotional protection, a survival mechanism that served them well, but now keeps them isolated, even from people who genuinely care, even from people who would help if they knew. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't weakness. This is actually a sign of incredible strength, because it takes massive emotional resilience to carry everything alone, to build these walls, to function despite the weight. The problem isn't that they're doing it. The problem is they're doing it even when they don't have to anymore, even when it's safe to let the wall down, even when vulnerability wouldn't be punished. The protection mechanism keeps running, long after the threat is gone. And that's what these phrases reveal. Not weakness, not dishonesty, not coldness, but a heart that's learned to protect itself so well that it sometimes forgets how to open. So if you've said any of these phrases, or if you know someone who says them regularly, now you know what they really mean. They mean someone has been strong for a very long time, longer than they should have had to be. And they've learned to carry their weight in silence, because showing it felt too risky. But here's what's important to understand. Recognizing this pattern doesn't mean you have to change it. It just means you can see it clearly. And when you can see it clearly, you have a choice. You can choose to keep the wall up, or you can choose to let it down. Just a little. Just with people who've earned that trust. Because the truth is, the strongest thing someone can do after 50 isn't carrying everything alone. It's knowing when to let someone in. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever said any of these phrases? Or do you know someone who says them all the time? Leave a comment below. And if this video helped you see something you hadn't noticed before, hit the like button and subscribe. Because understanding these patterns changes how you see yourself and others. But there's something even more powerful than these 5 phrases. A behavior that appears right after someone has been protecting themselves emotionally for years. And it's so subtle. Most people never catch it. But once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. I'll show you that in the next video.